What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and training camp is going to be ending soon. The preseason is kicking off. Obviously, the Hall of Fame game just got played. We have our first preseason game against the Atlanta Falcons on Thursday. I will be watching that game. I don't know if I'll be live streaming. I'll see on that. By the way, I didn't make a video yesterday because I was like super sick. I'm still sick. But yesterday I was like totally bedridden for pretty much the whole day. Real fatigue, stuff like that. I think I got a little bit of the flu, so apologize for that. There are interviews that were conducted today, yesterday. I'm gonna get as many of those as I can for you at the end of this video. But we have some things to talk about. Unfortunately, there's yesterday there was an injury scare with Jerome Baker. He did practice today, but that's something that we'll definitely need to keep an eye on. Look, I mean, we are, already we are starting to, feel the effects of injuries. And, obviously that's something that will end up continuing into the season, because people get hurt, right? I mean, that happens. So we'll have to keep a very close eye on that to monitor who Mike Cole is out for the year. He was already on PUP, but he is officially out for the year. So we're losing some some guys. Obviously we've lost, like Cordray Tankersley and Mike Cole, right? Those guys are on PUP. Dwayne Allen did come back. He was on PUP. Mike Cole is now out for the year. Jerome Baker had a small scare yesterday, but he's back. But look, I mean, a lot of these guys are guys that are going to be expected to contribute pretty heavily, either, in the starting lineup, or in the case of like Baker and Dwayne Allen and Rashad Jones, who's probably not going to make it for the start of the season, right? Because of something with his foot. He had a boot on, a cast on and stuff, right? Or guys, quality backups and special teamers like Cordray Tankersley and Mike Cole. They're pretty significant, right? And Jerome Baker's back, Dwayne Allen's back, but they have now had some injury complications early on, or up to this point in training camp. And so my point just is with that is that we have to monitor that, because if whatever it is that happened to them isn't 100%, then there's always the chance of re-aggravating it, or making it worse, or so on and so forth. So if we lost Baker, if we do lose Allen, that's going to be huge, right? So those are things that we're definitely going to need to keep an eye on. Let's get into some of the talk though about what's going on. So apparently though, so there are unfortunately a slew of guys who did not practice Tuesday or Monday, yesterday or today. Chase Allen, who we already knew was hurt. Jakeem Grant apparently not. So that's something to monitor. Zach Sturrup, we're trying to figure out who the offensive line's going to be. It doesn't seem like they have it again. It doesn't seem like they have it set yet. And obviously they don't necessarily have to have it set until the beginning of the season. But ideally you want to have it set before the first preseason game, so that way you can get, it's going to be limited time in the first one and in the second one. And then even the third one, that most the starters might play like half the game, right? So, excuse me. So, if that's the case, then, like I said, ideally you want to have the starting lineup set so they can build chemistry and start, learning how each other plays and so on and so forth. But, as of right now, it does not seem like they have that. So, Zach Sturrup, not having him practice is a big deal. Rashad Jones obviously is a big deal. Raekwon McMillan didn't practice. Eric Rowe didn't practice. Those are important big names. Jonathan Woodard and Cordray Tankersley, as we already know, is on PUP. So, I mean, that's a lot of those guys are super important, and I don't know all the reasons why a lot of, some of those guys are, not practicing, but we're going to need them and they need to get back soon. Anyway, so let's continue on. I got a bunch of things going on in my head, and there's a lot to talk about. So let's see. So according to Brian Flores, the Dolphins are basically cross-training Jesse Davis to play right tackle and Chris Reed to play center. That means the right guard and right tackle situation is still fluid. So real quick pause on that. Right, so it still is training camp. The preseason is literally knocking on our door. The season's going to be upon us before we know it. So, but in this time period, it's still good to cross-train guys, get them experience, so on and so forth, whatever. But again, I mean, ideally they want to have the starting lineup set before Thursday, so that way they can. Now we'll see. Obviously they're going to have to start some guys. So we'll see. We'll see what the starting lineup ends up being. They only got a couple more days. So we'll see what that ends up being, and we'll see if they stay consistent with it throughout the preseason. I think that's going to be important to keep an eye on, and who is going to be sorry, my voice is a little hoarse too. Who's going to be the starting lineup, and if they keep it, consistent throughout. Or if they keep changing it up and so on and so forth, which I think would be a bad sign. If they, especially if they put a starting lineup out there, for the whole first part, and then, I don't know. So to me, it just doesn't, it doesn't show confidence in the guys you have. It doesn't show, that you're convinced that whatever. So, and like I said, I think that's super important to keep an eye on. Same starting O-line, I guess, from yesterday. Center Kilgore, left guard is Dieter, left tackle Tunsil, of course. Right guard is Calhoun, right tackle is Davis. Seems they've achieved a measure of stability on offensive line. So I guess it's looking, from the past couple practices now, that is the offensive line that's been, but it is only a couple practices, so that doesn't really mean anything. We'll see if that ends up being the offensive line that goes into Thursday's game. And then again, as I mentioned, we'll see if that stays consistent. Jerome Baker's here practicing, but Kiko Alonso seems to be working with the starters. Okay, that's good. Man, my nose has been running like crazy. Whew. Okay, Josh Rosen with a nice slant to Mike Gesicki, who muscled to bring in the catch. Good. We need Gesicki to be a passing threat. We need him to be a passing threat. So he needs to continue to develop and, start showing his stuff out on the field on game days. Josh Rosen, so I guess we could talk about that a little bit. So apparently, Ryan Fitzpatrick's been, coming down to earth the past few, practices, which of course, because that's what he does, he lights it up for like half a second and then he falls down to earth because he's just not, he's not a great quarterback. He's a decent backup, right? Like he's one of those guys like Matt Moore. Although Matt Moore I think is far better overall, but he's one of those guys that's a good backup, but somehow and it's in part because he keeps going to, all these different teams, and, a lot of the time it's teams that need a quarterback, so he ends up in the starting lineup. He'll do like some good things for you, just enough to win you a few games, or to give you like the, idea that, oh, maybe he can be the starter long term, whatever, and then he ends up losing you some shit, and then because he falls back down to earth and so on and so forth. So that was expected. Although it does seem like he is going to be the starter on Thursday during the Falcons game, which, I mean, it makes sense. Most notably because Brian Flores said that was what was going to happen. But there has been a lot of talk about how Josh Rosen is apparently closing the gap, and maybe he is. Not that, the bar is not set very high, though, with Ryan Fitzpatrick. as far as I'm concerned. So, I don't really think it was that difficult to do. Again, I've said, though, that I believe both of them will play significant time during the season, and both of them will get mauled if the offensive line does not, come together. And unfortunately, there is a lot of data and stuff to suggest that it won't this year. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But if it doesn't, then it's going to be a very, very long year for this team. We are not going to win very many games. And, yeah. So obviously then there's a bunch to follow after that. Next year's draft, blah, 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 whatever. So again, that offensive line to me is the number one thing. Unfortunately, though, it seems like most of our injuries right now seem to be coming on the defense, which sucks because I think that our defense is going to be our strong suit. But if our offense is incapable, if the offensive line doesn't play well and the offense doesn't really do anything and balance things out, then our defense will end up staying on the field far longer than they should if, our offense keeps going 3 and out and so on and so forth. And having drives stalled, then our defense is going to stay out there. Those guys are going to start getting hurt. Well, they'll get tired first. Then they'll start getting hurt, midway and later on in this season. And then the entire team's going to fall apart. So a lot is hindering on this offense and the offensive line. Now, obviously, the entire team needs to play well together. But when one unit, if one unit, lacks, tremendously, right? Like if they lack a lot, right? If they're just, like if the offense, right? If the offense is, just constantly going three and out, or if the defense just breaks like immediately every time and the opposing team's offense just, runs all over them and puts points up left and right, then it affects the rest of the team, right? Because then the other squads have to be on the field longer. They get tired. They start getting hurt, blah, 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 and then everything falls apart. So, yes, it's 3 phases, and they all need to play together well. But no one unit can play just horrid either, right? There has to be a balance there. Looks like Jerome Baker is back out there and working in drills. Looks like he's okay after injury scare yesterday. Like I said, super good. Kenyon Drake and Isaiah Ford are handling the kickoff duties with Jakeem Grant sidelined by an injury. Kiko Alonso appears as though he's limited today, now going over to stationary bike. Kiko Alonso is limited. Tight end Dwayne Allen taking part in team drills for the first time in training camp. That's good. Dwayne Allen is getting work in 11-on-11s for the first time. He's getting reps with the starters and just got into a shoving match with Charles Harris. Good for you guys. Jailbreak blitz. Tank Carradine would have had the sack, beating Laramie Tunsil. I don't worry about Laramie Tunsil, but if the only problem I can see with him is if he starts having to compensate for the guys around him, right? So like, if Laramie Tunsil has only his left tackle job to focus on, then I don't worry about him at all. And even when he has to cover for other people, I don't worry about him that much. Because generally, if there somebody gets beat, it's because of last year, for example, it was the left guard's fault most of the time, right? And so if our left guard, who is damn it, I can't remember who it was. Anyway, if whoever it ends up being, because we don't even really know for sure yet, whoever it ends up being, if they start to falter and he has to pick up for him, well then, he might start giving stuff up or whatever. And so, but I was gonna say that if the one guy that we, have full confidence in and so on and so forth, if he starts getting beat and stuff and whatever, then that's just I don't even want to know. Josh Rosen holds onto the ball too long. Kiko Alonso is working on stationary bike. That's not good. Means his injury still lingers. See, look, man, our defense right now is just like battered. Mostly our defense. There's some offensive guys too, but mostly our defense is getting super battered by injuries already. And we haven't even played a preseason game yet. That, to me, that is super troubling. Kenny Stills, Devontae Parker, and Isaiah Ford will likely be your starters for Thursday night's preseason kickoff. Mike Gesicki just caught a touchdown pass from Ryan Fitzpatrick during red zone 11-on-11s, beating Bobby McCain, and the whole offense celebrated. Jill Ellis is a guest at Dolphins practice today. It's great. Let's see. I don't really care about that. One of the most pleasant surprises in Miami Dolphins training camp has been the performance of Tank Carradine. So apparently he's doing some really good things, which is good because, again, pass rush is an area that, you know, we might be lacking in. So we do need somebody to step up in that regard. Yeah, so look, guys, obviously I've been kind of, you know, out of it for one reason or another in my computer shit. I've been sick. But I'm getting back into it heavy. I'm, you know, going to try my best to, you know, catch up with everything that I missed. I think I've been doing all right. But, you know, there's still a lot to go. Training camp is coming to a close. The preseason is opening up. Excuse me. Like I said, on Thursday will be our first day, our first game. So, look, there's been a lot of talk one way or the other. You know, everybody's jumping on the Josh Rosen hype train, you know, and I think people just need to temper. The biggest reason why I think people need to temper is because if it goes wrong, right, maybe it goes right and everybody's super happy and so on and so forth. Obviously, if that's the case, then everybody's super happy and we can just forget about this. But if it goes wrong, right, the offensive line plays shitty and then he plays shitty, so on and so forth, he doesn't end up being the guy for the franchise, we take a quarterback next year high in the draft, blah, 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 blah. Well, then, you know, everybody's just going to get super sour, right? Everybody's going to get super sour, up in their emotions after, you know, a failed experiment, if that's what happens. And then, you know, that'll bleed into the next year. And then if we end up having 2-3 years of, you know, mediocre or worse seasons, then everybody's going to get pissed. And then they're going to want to, you know, fire the coach and stuff. And again, that's from day one, from this whole change, that has been one of my biggest concerns is that he will not get, and one of my biggest talking points, I guess, you know, for the Adam Gase regime is he will not get a full 5-year window. He does have a guaranteed contract, but that doesn't really mean anything, right? So all that means is that they would have to pay him still if they fired him, which I'm pretty sure we're still paying Adam Gase a good amount of money for this year, if I remember correctly. Just like we're paying Ryan Tannehill some money this year too. Anyway, so and then we'll just be back to, you know, regime change once again because everybody got up in their emotions and couldn't have any fucking patience. So look, I just think we need to you know, temper our you know, ourselves so that way we don't get our hopes up too high, that we just don't, you know, go full in and then end up disappointing ourselves, right? And I you know, I think we need to be critical of the things that they're doing, you know, because we have been mediocre at best for such a long time since Dan Marino left, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we want better. So, you know, especially me as a person who, you know, does what I do, you know, to the best of my ability. It's obviously not anywhere as near as good as some of the other guys, but I'm getting there. I'm working towards it, right? But, you know, as whatever, someone in the media, blah, 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 not that I'm really anything, you know, that crazy, but, you know, I report on the team anyway, so, and I make these videos, right? But, you know, I gotta be real. Like it's my, you know, it's my job, if you will, to just report the facts and give you, you know, my best, most honest evaluation based off of those facts, you know, and we need to, but as fans, we need to do that, the same thing, you know, we need to have the same kind of approach when we're looking at our team, you know, and figuring out whether or not we you know, back the decisions that they make. Anyway, So that's enough for now. I've given you all the major updates and so on and so forth. Obviously, things are going to, ramp up as the season progresses, which I'm excited about. So, look, it's unfortunately, I don't really, as you guys know, I don't have the highest hopes for this season, but it's football and it's Dolphins football, man, and I love it no matter what. It'll be painful to watch us, lose games if that happens. But look, at the same time, while I tell people not to have too high, hopes or whatever, my expectations are rather low. And so if they do surprise, and then it'll be amazing and it'll be wonderful, and then I'll get to rescind. Hopefully they do, surprise us and go 10-6 and make it to the playoffs, whatever, But like I said, I got to keep it real with you. But either way, I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to doing this and going through this season with you guys. And this channel, I promise, this channel is going to grow. It's going to get bigger, better. I'm going to do more things for you guys. Like I said, I got new software, so I'm just starting to learn how to do it, but I'm a put some time in, figure out how to make my videos as high quality as possible, and we're gonna grow and we're gonna do this together. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos and my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section, and as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.